Global shifts stirring in the collective field. Jimmy Kimmel's story viewed through the holographic mirror of our collective dynamics, a live channeled transmission from the Akashic Records, and the Telepathy Tapes episode 2, reflections based on true telepathic experiences. This is today's Charmed Life podcast. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Charmed Life podcast. This podcast is all about magic, metaphysics, mysticism, and the unconditional love of the universe. And I am your host. My name is Tricia Carr. Welcome to this episode. And again, we are live on YouTube and a few other places. And of course, there are people who are listening to it on the podcast feed. So welcome and thank you for being here. If you are live, I want to invite you to say hello, which is what Cosmic Soul is doing right now. Hi, Cosmic Soul. Thanks for saying hi, because we would love to hear from you, whether you want to contribute to the podcast by questions or comments. Just let us know you're here because we do appreciate you so much. Kate's here. Hi, Kate. And we also have Carson here today again. Carson, hello.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me again. I'm so excited. Hi, Tracy.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
I am well. Yeah.
You look great. You look so beautiful. She looks so pretty. You guys have to join live so you can see how pretty Carson is. All right. Carson has a great participation in today's episode. I'm so excited to receive her guidance. She is, after all, a 2/4 splenic projector. So we are actually going to start with the Jimmy Kimmel cancellation. We are viewing this not just as politics, not just as abuse of power, and not just financial greed, of which it is all things, all of these things, but also as a mirror of the collective field. So this week, Jimmy Kimmel, give a little picture of him there. There we go. All right. This week, Jimmy Kimmel Live was pulled from ABC after Kimmel's remarks about the death of Charlie Kirk, as well as his murderer, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. Now, Kimmel's remarks sparked a backlash about regulatory threats, and the FCC chair, whose name is Brendan Carr, publicly warned that the stations who were airing Kimmel might face consequences when it comes to their broadcast licenses. Behind the scenes, there's a much larger media power play going on. Nexstar Media. Nexstar Media it already owns 28 ABC affiliates, is working to finalize a $6.2 billion acquisition of another media company called Tegna. Now, this would add up to 64 more stations, and that deal would give Nexstar a reach into roughly 80% of the U.S. households. This is far beyond the FCC's current 39% ownership cap. An ownership cap is put on to keep from monopolies occurring. Monopolies are bad because then there is a consolidated amount of power and a certain constriction to diversity of expression. So we're talking basically about a sanctioned monopoly being formed. That's what's underfoot here. Now, for the merger to succeed, the FCC would need to relax those rules. And Chairman Carr has signaled, I hate that he has my same last name in this story, at least. He has signaled that he is open to doing so. So this is why Kimmel's suspension has drawn such intense scrutiny. Pulling the show looks less like an isolated programming decision and more like a maneuver to keep Nexstar's merger on track. Now, ABC and Disney, which Disney owns ABC, they are one and the same. They aren't directly a part of the merger, not technically, not directly, but they would benefit from more stable affiliate distribution and greater negotiating power if the deal goes through. And ABC is what owns Jimmy Kimmel Live. Now, all of this is unfolding amid suspicion that President Trump may be covertly involved, using his influence over allies in the media and regulation to silence his critics and perhaps even position himself for some unseen advantages. So people are saying this is censorship. Technically, it's not government censorship. It's technically not. But it does go to show how regulatory pressure, political power, and corporate consolidation are shaping what we see on our airways, what we have available to us, what is influencing that which is available to us. So, from a spiritual perspective, which is why we're here, what plays out in the media and politics, this is a mirror of our inner world of the individual as well as the collective field. What we see here is that when voices are silenced, when systems consolidate, when fear dictates behavior, it reflects the way individuals mute their own truths or allow shadow forces to steer outcomes beneath awareness. So we have here a tragedy, the tragedy of Charlie Kirk, a person who was killed because of his words. And then we have Jimmy Kimmel, who's losing his platform and his livelihood because of words, which, by the way, Jimmy Kimmel, a big part of his actual job description is to be challenging with his words as a comedian. That's what we have tasked with comedians in our society. At any rate, both are revealing how fragile authentic expression has become. And yet they also highlight its importance. This is rising into public view right now so that we can collectively reckon with discernment how to honor expression that uplifts both the individual and the whole. What's rising in the collective is a call for true expression that serves the highest benefit of each and all. True expression arises from true authorship. True authorship leaves no one out in a unified field. Author, like archangel, like the ark, like complete. Energy is one. We do exist in a unified field. The invitation here is to sharpen discernment and compassion, to notice what's authentic expression versus what is shaped by fear or maybe power. But we also remember that the only true power is love. And the only truth loves every part of the whole. We are being invited to recognize even more deeply that if I harm another, I harm myself. If I harm myself, I harm another. That is the invitation here. That is what we are being called into holding, even in paradox of my truth seems to be in contradiction to another person's truth. That doesn't give us the right to take something from another, whether it be their voice or their life or their money. I didn't know I was going to get emotional with that one, but I guess I'm feeling it a lot. I've been fighting disappointment recently, and it seems to keep ramping up every week, doesn't it? So I also, you know what? Here's the thing. I'll be a little transparent. I really, really like Jimmy Kimmel. I feel like I know him, even though I don't, because I grew up with him on the radio here in Los Angeles. A friend of mine from high school worked at the radio station that Jimmy worked at as well, and after that, worked with Jimmy for a while. And this friend of mine, his name is Tad. He hasn't worked for Jimmy for a while, but Tad has had some health issues, and I'm not telling Tad's business. He puts this out on social media, and Jimmy visits him in the hospital and the rehabilitation centers, and it's just he's a true blue person. And so I think that's why I got a little bit emotional. And there's just a lot of tough stuff happening right now. And I'm holding the picture, even while I have moments of disappointment. I'm holding the vision that we are taking out the trash, and that the true frequency, the background frequency, the underlying principle of this universe is love, and love is whole, love is one. And that we are recognizing the absence of that or the contradiction of that. And so that we can learn everything from it about why we chose it in the first place. So that's what's going on in the news this week. Well, there's a lot more, but that's what I chose to talk about. And with this, we are now going to turn to the Akashic Records. And Carson has prepared a question. And I'm going to be opening the records and allow a channeled transmission to come through. So let's take Jimmy off. Thank you. And Carson, come on over. So I'll just tell you guys a little bit about how this modality of the Akashic Records that I have downloaded, I have channeled, that I do with individuals, and I also do with groups. And that's what we're doing here today, is a group channeled transmission. So basically, I open the records with an invocation. That is something that came through to me with spirit, from spirit, and I do the invocation. A question is offered, and a part of the invocation actually is the participation of those who offer the question, and Carson's going to walk us through that. And after the question, then I channel the answer from what Carson's going to describe and explain, the Council of Light. So here, I'm actually going to pop off the screen, or I'm going to go down into the corner there. I'm going to mute myself, and I'm also going to mute you so I can do the invocation. I'm not going to do the full invocation here on the feed, but we're going to do a part of it. Carson's going to lead together. So I'm going to turn my volume down.
Let me make you small.
Thank you.
We'll switch this. So you will see her in the bottom corner reciting the invocation while I talk to you a little bit about what's going on. So this is a collective Akashic record reading. For anyone who isn't familiar, the Akashic field is a subtle layer of the quantum field, often described as an energetic library, database, archive, and which that records everything: our thoughts, words, actions, intentions. But it doesn't just hold the past, it carries the seeds of possible futures, patterns that connect across lifetimes, parallel realities, so all choices across space and time. And when we open the records, we're tuning into that subtle layer of wisdom and resonance. So the guidance today that Tricia will be channeling through will come through the Akashic Council of Light, also known as the Divine Council of Light. They don't show up as individual personalities with names. Instead, they remain anonymous, functioning more like a collective stream of wisdom and frequency. Their purpose is to bring through guidance and energy in a way that connects you, the collective, or you personally, if you're getting a personal reading, with your own soul and truth, without putting the focus on who they are. So it's about you. And anyone in any collective question will be able to tune in to what feels like is speaking to them, what is helpful for them, which is what makes it so wonderful and holistically healing. So we will see if she is still reciting. She's ready to come back. Okay. This decree: I am going to recite aloud 3 times, and I invite all of you to recite it in your head, to just open your heart and connect, to hold the intention for healing, or to recite it out loud with me, should you want. We open our hearts in complete trust in divine light. We decree our divine right to receive truth, wisdom, and knowledge. We open our hearts in complete trust in divine light. We decree our divine right to receive truth, wisdom, and knowledge. We open our heart in complete trust in divine light. We decree our divine right to receive truth, wisdom, and knowledge. I'm going to paste the question right here so that I can pin it. And I will remove.
And so flows forth divine light. This Akashic transmission is open. What is the highest potential future that can emerge from the current waves of anger and disruption? And what practical steps are needed to help bring that future into being? Thank you, one and all, who have opened your hearts, who have claimed your right to assume that which is the highest benefit for yourselves and for all concerned. We stand in awe of you. Those of you who come to this transmission, it is by your power, by your heart, by your truth and your authorship that this transmission flows through clearly and cleanly. Now, we would like to first offer to you a soothing to your hearts. We would like to first offer this to you because as you have your eyes open and as you have eyes to see, you also have a heart to discern. And this heart has been heavily burdened with too much, shall we frame it this way: compassion. Oh, can the heart have too much compassion? Yes, it can, in a manner of speaking. The heart can accumulate too much compassion, as it is, in a sense, not really allowing compassion to do its full work before it can move on to collect more compassion. So, compassion. Compassion is the ability to recognize the suffering of another and to take action to alleviate that suffering. Now, it is all the facility of capacity to hold that awareness of the suffering and to take the action. Both buckets must be sufficiently held in the right alignment. So you see, there is much suffering occurring. There is much to see, much to hold in the heart as suffering. The other portion of this is the capacity to also take action to alleviate the suffering. This is where your dynamic use of your free will is being called into action, because the action is not simply paying dollars or having conversations. While these may be very powerful and strong and necessary, yes, having conversations and paying dollars and doing your voting and walking on your streets and holding your signs and having your hearts open to help others to hold their hearts open. This is all a part of the action. And this last piece that we bring to your awareness, having your heart open so others can have their hearts open, having this attenuation, always being flexible about how open your heart is to allow others to open their hearts. Now, this action is also the action of your prayer, of your energy visioning and creation, of calling up energy into a certain form and releasing it and trusting that energy knows how to do what it knows how to do. And love is the only power, as was set in the tone of this transmission, this podcast. And so we ask you that you are aware of how much of the suffering you are consuming and allowing the processing of it to occur through the second portion of compassion, which is to take action to alleviate suffering. So let us give you a lesson in prayer. Prayer is not about begging. Prayer is about holding an authentic and sovereign energy within you and trusting that your occupation in that sovereign energy is impacting and affecting it in the Akashic field, in the field of the existence of all that is. So you must align with it, as your manifestation teachings have been telling you, those who come here. You are in your manifestation teaching. You understand that you attract what you are, as it's always said. But we would like to even just say you see what you are. You manifest what you are. You live in the world that you are. And this isn't given as a way to reprimand or to punish, blame, or shame. In fact, we give it to you in awe of who you are, that you are standing sovereign, holding the view of so much suffering and difficulty. And yet, asking a question such as you have, what is the highest benefit of this? How is this transmuting? How is this becoming something greater? For I hold the awareness of that which is the greatest for all, that every heart is soothed, that every mouth is fed, and that everyone is fully expressed in who they are, so that we come together as a beautiful tapestry that nature has intended, that the cosmos have dispatched, because nature and spirit makes no mistakes. You hold this in your awareness, and we ask you to charge this up, this second bucket of compassion's duty, which is to have the awareness of the suffering and to take the action. Your action is your prayer. This is something you must be taking your time, if you will, the resource of that, of how you spend your life force, spending it, yes, spending it in time, spending it in money. Yes, be in awareness of this and allow yourself to hold a dual consciousness. We understand that you have duties. We understand you have responsibilities. Allow that to be held up in the energy of your prayerful life. Be a walking prayer, which is to hold the sovereign energy of how this, even this, yes, even this suffering is being transmuted into that which is its truth, because the only truth is love. And this truth of this universe, this frequency, the fabric of holding all that is, this Akashic field, is whole. And whole means that it's connected. It means that it is love. How could I possibly hate my arm? For it is me. It isn't even possible to hate my arm, because hate cannot occur within a true holistic chamber, and that is what you will have. And so please hold a prayerful life. This may require that you spend concentrated times finding your way all the way back to where there is the nothing and the all, the primordial Om, the source of all that is within you. You hold a piece of that in order for there to be a source, in order for there to be a creator, a prime creator, in order for there to be a God, is that you are also a piece of this. You hold the spark of this. So attune this. Attune yourself to it and attune it up into your life. It looks like pure white light energy that has no name, no condition, no label. Find this within yourself. And from here, allow yourself to emerge into living as the prayer that hopes all things, loves all things, and expects all things that are aligned with hope and love. This is how this gets transmuted. Not by one government agency or one person in power or even the billions or trillions of dollars that are upsetting on a certain level of materialization. It all happens by the fabric of holding that piece that you do of the all that is and allowing it to express itself in purity and in truth. And so what is this amounting to? As you see the great pain, you see the great suffering, as you see this, which is anger. Anger is a powerful force. Let us strip anger of how it has splashed onto your material world. The impact. Anger is not bad. Anger is not wrong. Anger is not incorrect. Because how could anything be incorrect when everything is whole? So when anger occurs as a disruption, it is like a fire. It is like a volcano disrupting and asking for, not asking, demanding, commanding there to be a shift of the landscape. So as we recognize anger as a part of this process, giving it space to express and have its intention be witnessed. Anger wants to be witnessed. Now, first, this must be witnessed within you. We ask you not to try to repress anger or call it bad or wrong within yourself. You are responsible to your own anger. You have the ability to respond to your own anger and let it be present in the world. Let it first be present in your prayer. Yes, you can pray in anger if it is the truth of how you are existing in the moment. Let your anger be expressed. Now, you can do this through words. You can do this through some kind of physical or vocalized expression, or you can let yourself just be aware of it and let it spew out of you as energy of a volcano. Do this privately so that it can be a controlled burn. And then as you are able to hold yourself in a compassionate space to let your own anger be expressed and to honor it for what it is, why it is here, then you can extend this compassion to others. Then it will ripple out as you have expressed your anger and now you are free and peaceful in your own energy. You can now hold space for another. And then this will be a rippling effect all throughout the Indra's net of your humanity, one human to another. Now, we would like to hold for you that as we speak to you individually, if you will take this as an individual message for you, as you do this, it must ripple out. What if it comes down to you making the choice to allow an unfolding in your prayer from anger to compassion? And that then you take this to your beloved and your child and your friend and your mother, your brother, your sister, your co-worker, your colleague, your client, your boss. You take this to each of the individuals in your life, and then it is taken on forward and forward and forward. This is the calling into a quantum reality. This is what you are asking for. And as we bring into this communication quantum reality, we bring in the principle of superposition. Superposition is to occupy many points of reality at one time. This is a natural unfolding for your reality. It has been for centuries, and it is even more so now. Take this moment right now. You are all occupying a space of reality together. Now, you may not be sitting physically next to one another where a physical hand can hold another physical hand, but for all intents and purposes, for all impact and impression and expression, you are all together in one reality. You are superpositioned in this moment. You can occupy many realities at once. As you give yourself that birthright, that existential truth, then you will find that you can occupy anger and compassion at once. You can occupy peace and war at once, so that you will soon be able to find yourself being shed of any utility of war. As you have used up the purpose of war, as you have learned the lesson of it, this is where we answer your question. You are moving to complete and profound peace. Now, even within peace, there are colors. There can be a palette that is dedicated to painting the picture of peace, and it will have dark tones and light tones. It will have midtones. It will have highs, lows, lefts, rights, all of the cardinal directions. And yet it doesn't need to have a picture, doesn't need to paint a picture of war. Can you see how this is a potential reality that already exists as a part of not just your quantum universe, but what you are already occupying as a superpositioning being? Yes, you hold a picture, a reality. You are currently occupying one that is peace, a sufficient peace, even as coming into this picture of peace, there are differences. Differences make the picture beautiful. And so, as this episode was kicked off to speak of different ways that we express, when it seems that your truth directly contradicts with my truth, we must understand that the through line here is that there is one truth, and that is that we are both here to connect and love one another and to create something that is of mutual benefit. So, if it is a truth within me and a truth within you, then they must want to create something new, a truth as though a heart expanding to hold all of it. This is what paradox is offering you. It is offering you new creation. So as you see peace and war, hold both of them as a true reality. For if you dismiss one as not being valid in any way, it simply is. War is. Pain is. Oppression is. As you hold that as an awareness while also occupying peace, clarity, and embracing all, not only embracing them in spite of their differences, but embracing them because of their differences, because difference makes a new reality. Waves and particles, light and dark, air and water. This is what makes transition, transmutation. So you are moving into, because of the profound manifestation of the suffering, the disruption, yes, and the pain. While you are holding this with your compassion, allowing your prayer to be the transmutation, the alchemical fire for this, you will soon have it as a memory, as the contrast of your picture of profound peace. Now, some of you may be wondering, how is this possible? There will be in a whole new paradigm of profound peace. Well, you will see a shift as you are doing your particular prayerful life. You will take yourself to this new reality that has put behind it war and the cataclysmic suffering and disregard of humanity and the way that you are seeing it. You will be lowering that tier out of your reality within 7 years. As you do your choosing of it through your prayer, through your aligning with it. And you will see it even more profoundly within 25 years of your time. So choose this now as you can taste it just before you. Yes, there is a glorious timeline unfolding for you as you choose it now, as you recognize the power that you hold. We love you so much, and we stand in awe of you. And so it is. Hey, Carson, you can come on back if you like.
Within 7 years just made me emotional, excited, hopeful.
Yeah.
And I really loved the "you see what you are."
Mhm.
That was really beautiful. Thank you. And I love how it perfectly connected to the news segment and everything we are talking about.
Thank you so much. Oh, I need to close the records. Yes, I'll do that. I can do that on the as it is spoken, may it be perfected by the one light. Any blind spots surrendered to love and divine light. In gratitude and appreciation for it is done. This transmission is now closed. As it is spoken, and so it is. Amen.
You know, I had a bunch of different variations of this question, and I had to go back to my own Akashic record reading with you where I was stressed about the right one and what would be good. And I was like, last time you learned that it didn't matter what you asked, everything you needed got answered, because
Right.
that's how it works. And so I was like, whatever I choose, I will get this answered for
Yeah.
whatever people need. And it so did.
And because it's also it's like in a way it kind of seems like it doesn't matter what you choose, but it matters because you choose, because you say I have the right to ask the question. That's the interesting little tipping point. You know?
And even the question I didn't ask, the parts of it that I was really wanting got answered.
Okay, good. Yeah, it all gets
how it worked last time too.
Yeah, it all gets baked in somehow, right?
It does.
Yeah.
It really, really does. We got some just to end this out. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Kate. Well, all right. We that was really awesome. Thank you so much for the amazing question. Carson channeled that question, tapping into the collective, and brought it through for all of us. I'm gonna have to go back and listen because I actually don't totally remember already. But yeah, thank you so much for that. And I just encourage us all to listen back to it, because it's not just the words, it is the words, but it's also the energy that comes through in it. Maybe take notes, or maybe I'll even put some notes down in there, because there's usually practical, there was some practical stuff in there, right?
There's a lot of practical stuff in there. I really loved the part about coming together to create a new reality, because it's something new. It's your thought, your truth, my truth. Wants to connect. Yeah. And that was big. There was a lot of practical stuff in there, but even if you're not listening to the practical stuff, like you said, it's an energy adjustment, transmission, attunement. And I often just like let it just wash over me like water, and imagine light pouring in, and that can be just as effective.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. So, you know what I think I'll do is I'll like kind of put down get the summary of it, and even like take down the little bit of a the practical stuff, and kind of like spell it out, and maybe I'll make it as a download that you guys can, so come back later, and we'll also have a segment of this as a video separately. So if you want to get that, yeah, thanks, Jason. If you want to get that PDF later, just come back to this and join the newsletter too, so you can see it there. So awesome.
Beautiful offering. Thank you. I know I will definitely come back to it.
Thank you so much. All right, well, let's get into our next segment. We're having so much fun talking about the telepathy tapes. We talked about episode 1 last podcast we did. And so Telepathy Tapes episode 2 is where we are. In this episode of the Telepathy Tapes, host Kai Dickens travels to New Jersey to meet Akhil, a college student with non-speaking autism, and his mother, Manisha. And what begins as an inquiry into telepathy soon points to something deeper, merging of consciousness, as Manisha, Akhil's mother, is talking about it. Akhil not only appears to read thoughts, as they call it, but also is sensing his mother's experiences even when they're not together. Through a series of tests in this episode, he demonstrates telepathy. He recognizes random numbers and words, that they use a random number and word generator. And also they use a random image generator, so that his mom, Manisha, is looking at an image. And then he, in another part of the house, not being able to see it, is able to bring, a comment on, like, say what it is that she is seeing. And so this episode highlights Akhil's extraordinary abilities and raises profound questions about human connection and consciousness. Now, for me, honestly, I don't have the questions anymore, but I love that because I have been um, I have been experiencing telepathy consciously and skillfully for over 10 years. Animals first taught me how to experience telepathy, and then moved it into what I would call multidimensional telepathy, because mediumship, talking to or communicating with past loved ones, or multidimensional mediumship, communicating with angels, or like the Council of Light that I connect with when I'm doing an Akashic channeling session, that's all basically telepathy. And I love Manisha in this episode says, it's not like he's reading my mind. It's just like our consciousness merges. So what's really beautiful about this whole podcast is presuming competence is a place where they start off. In order for these people who have autism and are non-speaking, they have to be given the opportunity of their caregivers presuming that they're actually competent, that they're actually there, that just because they aren't able to use their body like other people do, that they are because they have a mind body disconnect where we have a mind body connection, they have some kind of a mind body disconnect, but they're still in there with all of their competence and intelligence. They need to be given the opportunity to express themselves. That's like the crux here, because they have telepathy happening among themselves, between their caregivers, and also with other non-speaking individuals. That's what's revealed in this podcast. It's so amazing. So telepathy isn't about I'm reading someone's mind and I'm mind reading. Really, it's that your consciousnesses merge. When I experience telepathy with an animal or with people, and like, for example, when it happens with my husband, we can't tell which one had the thought first. You just never could go, did I have that thought 2 seconds ago and you had it 4 seconds ago? Like, there's no way to track that. So it's a merging of consciousness. And again, like, I love how they demonstrated it so clearly and cleanly with Akhil and his mom, Manisha, because I've experienced that with animals, where an animal can show me their location by me showing on a map. I mean, I've located, there's been my friend, Fedra, who has the Bilam Foundation, which is a cat rescue organization. Her cat Rue has gotten out twice. And twice we've been able to locate Rue. And they live in Mexico, and in a place that actually I can't even pull it up on a map to see where their coordinates are. But by tapping in with Rue's been able to show me pictures of what it looks like where he is. And that helped Fedra to be able to locate where he is. And then also by remote viewing and taking a portion of my consciousness and putting it into where Rue is, the cat is, I've been able to go, okay, here's Fedra's address, even though I can't find it on a map. And Rue is within 1,000 feet southeast. And Fedra's like, I went right there. I saw the green tarp. I saw the wall that you mentioned, and we found him. There he was. So I've been experiencing it for a while, and I have been teaching it as well. But I want to hear from you, Carson. What did you love about this episode? Come on up and tell me about episode 2. Oh, you're muted still, I think.
Sure am. Got kids in the background. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Beautiful episode, beautiful recap for anyone who hasn't seen it. I thought you gave such a good feel for it. I actually had a bunch of questions come up for me because you are my mentor and my spiritual teacher. And I was like, oh, I wonder what Tricia would say about this.
Okay.
One was on the consciousness, that she asked, is it that we are the same soul having the same consciousness, or are we tapping into a collective? And is this a chicken before the egg question? Because was it you that had the thought? Was it them that had the thought? Or are you both tapping into also a collective consciousness that's giving you both this chance to communicate on the thought?
Yeah, I noticed Manisha asked that, and Kai, the host, was also wondering about that. Is it shared consciousness? Did one person generate it? They also asked, like, is Akhil looking through his mom's eyes, or does he bypass her brain and like see the picture? Like they had all these other things. And here's the thing, it's kind of like it's yes and it's all of it.
Yeah.
Are they one soul? Well, I mean, if we would then want to define what a soul is. In the idea of a soul dispatches a person, then not really. But we are all one energy, right? And so it's kind of like saying, well, I'm in this part of the pool and you're in that part of the pool. You know what I mean? Like when you pee, am I gonna, yeah, I mean, because the pee has nowhere to go. It's just going to disperse out. Sorry to use such a gross
I love it. Makes sense to me.
metaphor.
Sometimes those are the ones that stick in your head, right?
Yeah.
Helps you learn.
Yeah.
Shock factor.
So it's kind of all of it. So we are tapping into like, as we were just looking at the Akashic field. The Akashic field is representative of the baseline frequency that receives impressions. It's like the fabric of all that is. And it receives the impressions of absolutely everything. So yes, we can use that almost like the open broadcast signal. So really, the radio waves, ever since we've been able to have a radio, back from what was that, the 19th century, I think it was. It wasn't the 18th. It was in the 19th century, back in the 1800s, when we were able to harness radio waves and then allow them to transmit certain sounds, sound patterns like voices, songs, and certain kinds of sounds. Well, their radio waves are one, but we're able to actually harness them, focus them into a stream, and then use it for certain purposes. So you see, it's both. So we all have one consciousness, but then I have my individuated consciousness. And then when I merge it with yours, then we trade or we share. And not only do we trade and share information, but we actually collaborate on it, because and this is also just like regular speech. When I speak to you, I believe social psychologists say that you're lucky if you understand up to 80% of what I intended to communicate to you. So you're contributing at least 20% of your communication to it just by listening, you see? So with telepathy, it's even more malleable. It's both more potent and pure, and also more collaborative. Yeah.
You also brought up another thing that I had a question about, in terms of, is he seeing through her eyes? Is he seeing not, and just being able to see everything?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering how this is probably also a yes and situation, but how similar this is to when a medium is using telepathy to come a reading, but they're still interpreting it. They have to interpret into words. So there was that picture where he saw paint, and I can't remember what she saw, but would you say it's similar to that? I would imagine he could probably do both too. He could tap in and just both. See, but he could also interpret through her, which will kind of be like a game of telephone. It can be interpreted differently.
Yes. And so I'm so glad I brought up that example of me with the cat Rue in Mexico, because I did both. So I asked him if I could occupy basically like put my consciousness in his body from his perspective and see through his eyes. And that helps me to a certain degree, because that's how I saw, like, it was like I went up a wall and I was like, how could you even go up a wall? And he's like, that's me trying to interpret what he was showing me. But I saw somehow he went up a wall, and that there was a green tarp, and that there was bushes and bramble, and that he was tucked in here. Well, so I saw that through his eyes. And then when I told Fedra's like, yes, I know exactly what wall you're going up. He can climb that. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, I was making the assumption that there's no way a cat could just climb a wall, but he could, but somehow something I didn't see through his eyes. But then, so that was the limited view. So now a cat doesn't know about maps and doesn't know how to tell me 1,000 feet, right? I mean, I can feel through his body, but what I did was anchor my consciousness in his body, but then I zoomed out and remote viewed around. So now I'm not seeing through his eyes, but I'm using him as an anchor point to see around where he is. So that's how I saw like other things in the area. You see, so it's both. So Akhil could have been empathically mapping himself to his mom. So he sees through her eyes, and then saw a picture, which she didn't know how to interpret it, but he interpreted it as paint. Or he could have been remote viewing, using her as an anchor to look over her shoulder, basically, and see what she was looking at. But they didn't ask Akhil that, because they didn't know to ask him, I guess.
Exactly. And it reminds me of episode 1 where Mia says, I can see
everything. Yeah. So she was talking about remote viewing. So yeah, she can see through someone's eyes, or she could just see in the room. Yeah.
She could do both. Okay, I have another question I'm excited about, because it gets a little bit more out there, but I think viewers will be interested in it. So Akhil says at the beginning, that he didn't know he had a body.
Yeah.
And he said, in my world, people don't talk. So in spirit and other dimensional realities, other interdimensional societies, there are no bodies. Everything is telepathic, everything's energy. So I'm curious how much you think this relates to possibly two things. One, the fact that humans were seeded and all of us have so many different types of DNA from different places and races and societies, interdimensional, and how much this is related to our soul's makeup, the percentage of our oversoul that comes through identifying to these past lives where I didn't have a body ever. I didn't have speaking ever. And we're getting more and more of those types of beings coming here to be human. And I'm wondering if you think that is related at all, or what your thoughts are.
I think so. And I think also, I would say, all of that. And even if, let's imagine that, so you're posing like with that second part, maybe a person has past lives, as it were, so to speak, as being a non-physical or an interdimensional kind of being, maybe even on a different planet that doesn't manifest into a 3D physical reality like this. Maybe some other kind of transdimensional or interdimensional energy body, but not fully physical. Don't need to then use words produced by a physical mouth, and it's just the transmission of information. So maybe some people have that memory, right? That's one thing. Yeah. And then also, even if a person doesn't have that, like in their soul lineage that they're bringing into this reality, you still are every aspect of your omnidimensionality. So on the soul level and on the higher self level, it's not physical. You know what I mean? That the physical is within that, like Russian nesting dolls, but we are the outer dimensions of ourselves too. So even if it isn't about a soul lineage remembrance, which I think that is, yeah, absolutely. Which might be why it's a little more difficult or troubling for some people to stay tethered to this reality. And maybe that is, some of what is happening with people who are either non-speaking or slow to speak, or more, maybe you might even say like more introverted, because they don't feel the need to have as much extroverted contact, maybe, you know what I mean?
Anything that's considered different than what we have put forward as this homogenous society, which brings me into my hope and next question, in terms of, it is so clear that we have no idea how different we all are. And we have put forward this is the way to learn. This is the way to communicate. And I would hope, and I'm curious in your thoughts as well, that a podcast like this would help us realize that we need to start thinking outside of the box and seeing that is celebrating our differences and coming up with systems that support these differences. And do you see that? I mean, if we can have peace in 7 years, I would hope that we could do this faster than that.
Yeah, I had to laugh when you said think outside the box, and I was like, or speak outside the voice box, right? Yeah. Well, I honestly think that big props and celebration to Kai Dickens for doing the Telepathy Tapes, and also to the community of non-speaking autistic individuals and their families. And by the way, you and I know this, that's something so freaky crazy, is that this is so in alignment. I want to talk to Kai. If anybody knows Kai Dickens, tell her I want to talk to her, because she's
your neighbor, apparently. So
I know she lives in the same city, apparently. So there is the 2027. It's like technically a prophecy if you think about it as what could happen, but it's a human design understanding principle. We're having this major cosmological astrological shift in the background frequency, and the founder of human design, he saw that there were going to be, he calls it like a whole basically new is kind of mutation to the human race of children, and when they're born, people coming in, and he describes basically non-speaking autistic individuals. And I think this wave has already started to come in, because autism,
I agree,
and non-speaking, kinds of affects, neurodiversity has really, and it's not just because we know more about it. It really has shown up more. People are more individuals who have who are gifted this way are coming in. And so anyway, it's like this podcast, I think the awareness, and even before the podcast, the community of the caregivers of these children who have non-speaking autism or just have autism, caring about their kids and assessing them as true human beings. Not, unfortunately, there's still places of this world where people with autism or different kinds of certain kinds of manifestations are hospitalized, or they've even been put to death, and horrible things, because they are othered so much. So being able to these parents who have, and teachers as well, and other caregivers, being able to recognize these people for who they are, and then being able to find them and see that they're actually really advanced individuals. How beautiful is that paradox, really folding into everything we're talking about here. So there is this dust up of a lot of energies in a lot of areas. It is like, it's the season changing. And so if we think, 2027, February 18th, I think it is 2027, when that background shift happens, I mean, that's a year and some change away. And then we just need to figure out how to deal with that and how to deal with ourselves. And we have to have more compassion for people who maybe whose hearts haven't been cracked open in the same ways yet. We have to help their hearts to crack open.
Yeah. It brings me back to what you said at the beginning of what the transmission was about, just the fear. And fear is trying to control. Fear is not understanding someone different than you and wanting things to be the same. And it's love that opens and expands.
And that's what opens us up too. If we take the Jimmy Kimmel story and we look at it and say, oh, so there is, voices trying to be suppressed because wanting to maintain some status quo and gain more power. That happens within me too. I have certain beliefs that I'm wanting to maintain because I'm afraid of changing. And so I'm suppressing one of my inner voices, one of my voices of truth, in order to gain more power in this area because I'm too afraid of change. Like, that is happening in us. So we have to have more love and compassion on the individual level. And to think how accountable and honest you would become if someone else could read your thoughts. Yeah.
I only have one more question about telepathy tapes.
But sorry, I wanted to say, for people listening, I was reading a comment from Jason, who's here.
Yes, who is here with us backstage. Okay. So there's this idea, there's a quote that she says, like, non-speakers have abilities beyond the normal. And it reminded me a bit of how we've always thought scientifically that, if you're blind or deaf or whatever, other senses become heightened.
Yeah.
And it could be a deprivation of that. But how much do you think it's also the fact that you're not pushed in one direction? So this is allowed to stay open.
Yeah.
Which then reminds me of, she's saying, Kai mentioning that both Mia and Akhil can see dead people, basically. And then she mentions that she kind of put a stop to that. Manisha said, I entertained it for a bit, but I didn't encourage it. And then he used to. He doesn't mention it anymore. And I'm curious, and we could never know this, but is it that he's just learned not to mention it because he can tell and know, he can read her thoughts, that she's not comfortable with it? Or has it been repressed to the point where he's actually not physically seeing it, but telepathy with spirit is still telepathy. And so he's telepathic. So I would imagine that aspect hasn't gone away.
Yeah. And, of course, we could ask Akhil that. And so that's how we could know, is just ask him, do you just ignore it because you it's not relevant? Basically, that's what he has learned, is that, it's not relevant to his.
And is that what our children
life
are learning when they're seeing it, and the adults are like, no, okay, I don't need to, because our brain can only hold on to so much, right? And it can only process so much. So it's like, okay, that's not relevant anymore. I'll stop paying attention to that.
Right. Yes, exactly. And it's not just learning it from the parents, because when children are still telepathic, they're picking up, oh, that's not important to the world and it's not important to
Mm.
keep me physically alive. And so I'm going to start paying attention to the things that keep me physically alive. And what's interesting is that it kind of creates the uh an kind of effect where people are like afraid of ghosts, and I'm like, there's no reason to be afraid of ghosts. They can't physically harm you. Like
Mhm.
you can manage your own thoughts and feelings, and that's all they can do is they can offer things in energy, and you can just like not listen to it energetically. You know what I mean? And so it actually creates a mysterious effect that people are actually more afraid of non-physical. And it's like, no, but at one time I had this friend, there was someone had a picture where some kind of entity, a non-physical entity, showed up on a baby monitor, and it was like they took a picture of it. It was clear as day, but when they went in there, it's not in there at all. So I showed it to my friend, and my friend, he was like, no, 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 no. He was like so afraid to see it. He was terrified, and I was like, but. And I was
What's
like,
gonna
no,
happen?
it's cool. And he was like, no, 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 no. It was like torturing him to even see it. I was like, wait a minute. So you believe that this is true? It's possible, but because you're looking at it on a picture, you think then somehow you're more vulnerable to it. I'm like, do you realize if this is true, that it could be standing right here? He's like, stop it, stop it, stop it. Anyway, it's just created this by making it mysterious, it makes it more threatening to us.
And I would imagine the more you have fear about it, the less you're going to want to see it, and
Yeah.
the less you're going to have
You just
access to those abilities that we all have.
Yeah, yeah. So absolutely, it is again, it's a kind of all of it. I wonder, yeah, I would be curious if Akhil still, yeah, I would assume, and I don't know if I should or not, but I would assume Akhil, if he has just like put it aside, or he just doesn't pay attention to it, or he just doesn't speak about it, I think that he could call it up anytime he wanted to,
I
you
would
know,
imagine so as well,
and
since
I'll bet
he's
you he knows
in
that.
that
Yeah.
world.
Mhm.
Spirit world is telepathic.
Yeah. And so here's the thing, what it comes down to is that children repress or unlearn their telepathy or their capacity to allow spirit to be a part of their relevant life because of needing to pay more attention to physical senses because of physical threats. So with these non-speaking autistic people, they have a disconnect of mind and body. In this episode, Akhil said he told his mother at one point, I didn't even know I had a body.
Mhm.
So she started to help him to understand, to connect, to make a mind-body connection by touching his hands and saying, this is your hands. And he's like, oh, you know. So because of their mind-body disconnect, he hasn't been trained or conditioned to only pay attention to that which is physical
Right.
communication, physical threat, you know?
Which
So it's
allows the
interesting.
other
Mhm.
aspects to stay open.
To stay on. Mhm.
So good.
Fascinating, right?
I love it.
Yeah, Jason says, "Because the unknown is not safe," says the subconscious. Yes, exactly. Right. If we haven't I haven't died yet by living the way that I do, so I should just keep living the way that I do. That's the that's
Yeah,
the illogic there.
survival.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Well, do you have anything else about the telepathy tapes you want to talk about or ask?
No, I think those were the big ones, and I loved them.
And Kai, the host, quotes Nikola Tesla. I love this quote. I use it all the time. Nikola Tesla says, "The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than in all previous centuries of its existence."
I loved that.
I agree. Yeah. And in the meantime, I love and I hope science to actually, open up more and give us more of the understanding to this, the groundedness. I mean, quantum physics is really the leader in that. However, it's like I say, I'm still going to be involved in it as an art, and how it is relevant to the world. Can you imagine if a painter said, I'm not going to use the color blue until science explains to me why it's possible for it to exist? No, we're going to use blue. I'm going to use telepathy. I'm going to use it responsibly. I'm going to use it artistically. I'm going to use it lovingly and compassionately. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
As you should.
Yeah. Well, anything else we have to cover? Let's talk about, we have Modern Mystic. Please check the show notes here because we have a Modern Mystic workshop coming up. We are going to be connecting with Archangel Azrael, who is the archangel who oversees transitions. Oh, don't we want some transitions right now? I want some transitions. Yeah. And the alchemy of manifestation, that's coming up on September 29th. And if you're listening at another time past that time, that workshop is already in the queue. So Modern Mystic, we have 2 live events every month, a meditation and a workshop. And there is a library of meditations and workshops for you to dive into right now. It's only $22 a month. And the community is amazing.
Yeah. It really is.
All right. I guess that's it for this episode. Are we all set, Carson?
I feel good and complete.
You're complete. All right. And let's say hi to Jason. Jason is going to be, hi, Jason. Jason's backstage with us right now. This is Jason Shivers.
Hello.
He's going to be getting in on this podcast joy, helping us with production and sometimes popping in and giving us some of his amazing wisdom and insight. Jason's a hypnotherapist and a healer. And we're just so excited to, and he was on the podcast, what, like 2 months ago or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what we have for you in this episode. Thank you, everyone, so much for shining your light on our beautiful world. And thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are. Oops, that was a mistake. See, this is why I need Jason to help me.
I think we have to hit end stream, right?
No, I know, but I'm not done yet.
Oh.
I was playing the outro. Oh, but I can't find it now. Is this it? This is it. Yeah, that's it. That's what happens when you're live. You do things. Thanks, everyone, for being here.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.